Hello, my name is Elizabeth. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm really glad you're here because I read another awesome book. I read Find Her by Sarah A Denzil. Very cool mystery, one of those stories where you get bits of information that by the time you get to the end sort of shows you a whole tapestry. But for a while there's always like missing pieces and you're just trying to sort of like gather all the information and figure it out. It takes place, spoiler free as best as I can do. This takes place at a wedding venue for the most part. The real action happens in a weekend where there are 3 different couples that are getting married at a wedding venue that is like, it's like not so much destination, but it's like everything happens there, right? The wedding, the ceremony, the party, the everything. There's actually a hotel for people to stay in who are coming into the weddings. So, and so we have 3 couples getting married. We have, and it doesn't take very long for like 3 brides to be missing, and a groom's grandmother who's an octogenarian, and there's a terrible snowstorm going on, and how did we get here? And what weddings are going to happen and what weddings aren't going to happen? And yeah, that's as spoiler free as I can do. Really cool story. Hear the entire story. Join me for the ride. It's seen from a point of view of 3 of the brides and the wedding coordinator. So we have Mila, who is marrying Raphael. We have Claire, who is marrying Adriana. And we have Lucy, who is marrying Henry. So we actually have 4 brides and 2 grooms. The wedding coordinator's name is Colleen. And the story opens with the point of view from the bride, which could be 4 different people. So you don't know who the bride is. But it opens with a bride in the passenger seat next to her groom who's driving, and they've just gotten married. At least that's what we think. She's in her dress. He's in his suit. It's snowing. The car slides off the road, runs into a tree. The groom is impaled by something from the accident, and he's sputtering and he's bleeding and he can't quite speak, and the bride covers his mouth and nose until he dies. She gets out of the car, taking her cell phone. She starts walking. She's calling 911. She says, I'm in this terrible accident. I'm stuck in this bad storm. And they say, look, the storm is really bad. We're not going to be able to get to you for a while. You need to find yourself some shelter. So she heads off to find shelter. And we'll come back to the bride as the story goes on and get a little more information about her. But at this point, we're introduced to Colleen, who is the wedding coordinator, and there's this terrible storm, like I said, and they're looking for the brides and grooms and one of the groom's grandmothers. And this is the same storm where the bride and the groom got into that car accident. So at this point, we sort of step back and start to learn more about the history of these couples. Okay, so Mila, who I said is engaged to Raphael, he is extremely wealthy. Okay, this guy has got a lot of money. His parents have a lot of money, and his parents want her to sign a prenup. She says, absolutely not. She's like, I love you. This is the only marriage I'm planning on having. I need you to trust me. And also, like, if something happens, if we're married for 10 years and you start having an affair, I want to be compensated for that time and effort and whatnot. So she refuses to sign a prenup. At this point, we start to find out a little more about her background that her future husband, and his family don't know. She was raised in a very abusive, toxic family. Her parents are both addicts. Her father is mostly a drunk. Her mother is mostly a drug addict, and She says that when she was 18 and she got out of the house, she started selling pictures to men on the internet because it was the only way for her to make enough money to really start out her life. And she thinks to herself how she's not really that person anymore, that 18-year-old who had to do anything to make money. But she definitely doesn't want her fiance to know about her sort of questionable past. So we find out that she's letting her mother-in-law plan the entire ceremony. Like, she's not even picking out the dress. She doesn't seem to care really about the details of the ceremony. And what she says to us is that she just wants to be married to the man that she loves. And we have no reason not to believe her, right? Okay, so Mila, she receives a blackmail message. I will send the pictures of you from when you were 18 to your fiance. Pay me by X date to stop the photos from going to your fiance. Try to, this is the blackmail. I have these pictures. I'm going to show them to him. Give me money. She tries to figure out who it could possibly be. She had a couple of old clients that were, repeat customers. And she actually, one of them, she sort of stalks and then does sort of like a meet cute with him, only to be like, you really don't recognize me? Okay, look, don't threaten me. Don't blackmail me. I will tell the whole world about the pictures that you bought. And you do know that in some of them I'm under 18. And this guy is like pissing himself. He's so scared. She finds another one and does sort of the same thing, although he recognizes her much earlier and says, don't blackmail me. And the second guy she went to, I think his name was Dominic. And when she gets home, Raphael is like, who the hell is Dominic? And he doesn't speak to Mila for 3 days. She tries to tell the story that he's an accountant. So she tries to tell the story that she was hoping to make a connection for her future husband of a good accountant, that he had been complaining about his accountants, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. The guy is not someone who would be helping someone who has as much money as Raphael does. She also tells us that the finger marks on her wrist and the black and blue marks on her cheeks, she covers them all up with makeup. She thinks to herself that she's scared of him because he can make her hurt, put her in pain. But she also thinks, I've been through a lot of pain. I can handle it, right? So it's at this point that I start to realize, this isn't true love. The reason she's not interested in the details of the wedding is because, for whatever reason, she is not really in love with this guy. So why is she marrying him, right? So I could not stop turning pages to find out. And she thinks to herself how, Raphael's bruises on her helps to sell the lie about his treatment of her and to a friend. And while he did hit her, it wasn't because of the reason that she told her friend. So she's sort of manipulating things all over the place. She then has a moment where she remembers the date and she gets really upset with herself that she doesn't realize that it's the 2-year anniversary since her death. Her older brother her older brother Christopher, and she run into each other at the graveside. She says to him, it's good to see you, but what are you doing here? And he's like, well, I knew you'd be here, and I need to tell you that watch out for debt. He's in major debt, like bad debt. She says, what's new? He's always in debt. And she's like, no. He borrowed from the wrong people. In fact, they kneecapped him. She says she feels absolutely nothing for her father. She doesn't feel bad for him. She's not sad for him. Doesn't want to help him, nothing. Then Christopher says, watch out. Dad knows what you're doing, and he doesn't approve of it. What does that mean, right? So at this point, Mila goes to see her parents. And it's her dad who's blackmailing her. Because he took pictures of her too. And she tries to explain to him, I wasn't 18 in those pictures. You sure you really want to make those public? She tells him that there is no money. She doesn't have access to any money at this point. None. And, the marriage hasn't happened yet, and she hasn't gotten access to anything yet. And there's literally no money for her to give to her father to stop him to, pay for the blackmail. So that's about all the background information we get about Mila, Raphael. And Raphael's parents really don't like her. They really, really want her to sign a prenup. They don't want him to get married without it. That's pretty much the background we get. Like, I don't really know who it is that, her and her brother went to visit at a grave. I don't know, like what her plan is with Raphael, though it doesn't seem like they're like true love. Okay, so just so you know, the book is written where you get a little bit of information about Mila, and then you get a little information about this other bride, and then a little information about this other bride. And I'm giving you all the information that we got before we get to the climax. So I'm just sort of streamlining it. Okay, so then now we meet Lucy. Lucy is engaged to Henry. Henry's first wife has passed. They have a teenage boy by the name of Jacob, and the first thing we sort of find out is that Jacob has written this essay for his history class, which was to find an evil character from history and write about it. But this kid writes about his future stepmother and how evil she is and how terrible she is and how he wants to get rid of her and he doesn't want anything to do with her and she's awful and she's terrible and she's taking her father away. And it is, the vitriol in it is really scary. He says that he dreams of hurting her. So when his father Lucy reads it and she's really upset. And then Henry reads it and he's like, he makes his son apologize, which is the most insincere thing ever. It's one of those, like, apologize. And he's like, sorry. Like, there's no honesty behind that. And then Henry is defending his son. He's saying he's just a teen. He's still in mourning from his mom. Like, just, you don't need to feel threatened. Like, he's just a teenager who is, talking out of his you-know-what. And he's just upset. He's just sad. He's just mourning. So meanwhile, as all of this is happening, a coworker of Henry's, Sunil, who has met Lucy because she's engaged to his coworker, calls up Lucy and warns him that she's not safe with Henry. And he says things like, look at the way his first wife died. Like, I don't think you're safe. Sunil also seems to be just a little too much infatuated with Lucy. Like, at one point he even, like, tries to kiss her, and she, like, pushes him off. But, like, she's so shocked by it, like, takes her a second. She's like, did not see it coming. And, she's engaged. I understand. Men sometimes. So he seems a little infatuated. So, like, he's trying to help, but he also feels a little off. And, like, why is he trying to help? He's trying to get her for himself. Like, I don't know what his motivation is. But she's really worried about Jacob. She realizes that she's pretty much alone in the house with him most of the time. And Henry wants her to be the one to go to the school and deal with the essay fallout. And she's really feeling afraid of this kid. Like, he's big, he's a teenager, he's strong, he's a big kid, and he really seems to hate her, and she's literally alone in the house with him. She's trying to sort of, like, figure out what's going on with him, and she's home one day, and he's not. And she goes into his room and she sees that his laptop is open. And she's like, sometimes he leaves his computer to update, like, a game or something that takes, like, all day to update. And he'll just leave it all day to sit there while he's at, school doing the updating. And it's signed into during those moments. So when Lucy, shakes the mouse to make it screensaver, it's unlocked. And she's like, oh, well, then let me see what's on here. And she finds that he is on a forum called Red Pills. It is for incels, which is a term means involuntarily celibate men. So these are men who hit on women, but women don't want to be with them. They want to be with women, but women find them for whatever reason not who they want to be with. The hatred he has towards women on the forum just makes everything more horrifying for Lucy. He doesn't just visit the forum. He posts to it every day. In fact, he's a moderator. Okay. When she hears Jacob get home, she hears him and she's like, I gotta get out of here. She slams the laptop closed and she runs out and she goes, oh my God, his laptop was open. Shoot. Oh, now Lucy tells Henry what she found on Jacob's laptop. She agrees that she overstepped. She knows she shouldn't have looked at it, but she was really scared and he needs to see what she found. Henry totally reprimands her. Jacob has personal things. He has personal accounts. We have to respect his personal privacy. Lucy says that she really didn't feel like she had Henry's support in any of this situation, so she tried to take care of it herself. She had an opportunity to see into, where he spends his time and what he spends his time doing and how he feels about things. She tells him that he's on this red pill forum and that he's an incel and he's a misogynist, and Henry gets really mad at her and storms off to go get Jacob and confront him, and Lucy follows, and Dad says, I need to see your computer. Jacob sneers at Lucy and he smiles as Henry looks away, and through his, Henry's looking through his thing and he looks over at Lucy and he just sort of snickers at her. He has cleared out all of his cookies, all of his history. He's deleted the forum. It's completely gone from his computer. It's gone. He imitates innocence, and he's like, I'm not an incel. He's like, I've been with girls. I don't actually have that problem, and I respect girls. And whenever anyone is, misogynistic or disrespectful, I always step up and tell them that that's wrong. And he's like, Dad, I wasn't going to tell you this, but since she's being so weird, I actually caught her kissing your coworker, Sunil. So in that moment when Sunil leaned over to kiss her, Jacob took a picture. Jacob saw it and he took a picture. So he shows that to Henry. He says, I have photo proof. He is such a good manipulator. He has got his dad eating out of his palm. He is mad at Lucy. It is Lucy's fault. It is Jacob is perfectly fine. This is my son. You can't ask me to choose your side over my son's side. This is, stop what you're doing. But she knows what she saw. Okay, she is not lying down about this. So she gets herself a VPN and she sets up an account on Red Pills and she goes through and tries to find messages sent by Jacob. She finds some messages from him, and he says that he had to purchase a burner phone to be able to use the forum. So he's still on the forum, but he has purchased an older version iPhone so that he can use that on the forum. And that's sort of where we are when they get to the weekend of the wedding. Okay, third bride, Claire. Claire is engaged to Adriana, Aid, they sometimes call her. And what we find out about her is that she was recently on jury duty, and where they found a man guilty of both R-word and murder. And his name is Kevin Botham. And since he was convicted, she's been receiving messages and some and gifts, weird gifts from the family of the man. Okay, it's really disturbing and scary to her. Her fiance is like, enough already. It's not that, he's not doing anything. They're just trying to make you feel like maybe we should be more worried about the wedding, So at one point, our Claire reaches out to the person on the jury that she was closest to, that she had gotten closest to. It's a murder trial. I'm sure they were together for a very long time. This Pauline person tells her, I've also received some strange gifts. I've gotten, like I got a bouquet of flowers, or I got a letter, or, these things and then they say things that are disturbing. But Pauline says, but I've kept in touch with everyone else and no one else has received anything, strange in the mail. She remembers that she and Pauline were the two who pushed for the guilty verdict. And then she's like, well, maybe that's why, because we were the two who really pushed. She says, there were two others that were complete holdouts for innocence, but eventually they changed their minds. And she thinks, well, maybe they were plants. Maybe they were the ones that were supposed to make sure that he was innocent, and I pushed for guilty. Maybe that's the problem. So Claire starts having nightmares, and Adriana suggests therapy. And Claire is just like, look, I don't need therapy. I need the stalking to stop. As soon as this crazy, upsetting stalking stops, everything will be fine. But Adriana is really very fed up with all this stalker crap around every corner. Okay, so that's the background of them. They are definitely madly in love. There's no question. Aid is upset because her father is not coming to the wedding because he doesn't approve of her being gay. And so she's already sort of bummed when the weekend starts. Okay, so that's all the background information that gets us to the wedding weekend. So now we're at the wedding weekend, and Colleen has to deal with someone who comes in who doesn't have a reservation at the and doesn't have a hotel room reserved, hasn't been invited to any of the weddings, and shouldn't be there. And it turns out that it is Mila's father, only he keeps calling her Millie. It's like, I'm here to see Millie. She's my daughter, and if she's getting married, I get to see it. And you cannot keep me away from my daughter getting married, and I will sue you if you try. And they're just trying to figure out what to do. But your daughter doesn't want you here, so you really shouldn't be here. But like we found out at the very beginning, everyone's searching for this missing grandmother. A couple of the brides can't be found, and they're searching for them. There's a lot going on with Colleen right now. She is trying to save 3 weddings, and it's not going well. So she just sort of needs to get this guy somewhere where she can just say he's there and check him off her list and just put him somewhere and take care of it. So there's one room that hasn't been booked, and that's because there was some construction needed in that room, and she books him in there. She tells a couple of the employees to watch the room and make sure he doesn't leave, and if he does leave, that they let her know right away, because she asks him to please stay in his room because there's these weddings, and we want him to not, ruin them. Lucy, who's the one who's marrying Henry, who has the son Jacob, sees Raphael, the one who's marrying Mila, whose father keeps calling her Millie, and her blood runs cold. Lucy seeing Raphael makes her blood run cold. She used to date him. She dated him for about 1.5 years, and he beat her so often. She sees him and she starts to tongue the tooth with the cap that he chipped when he slammed her head onto a table. She starts to think about the different scars he's left on her body and how hard it was for her to get away from him. And then she realizes he's one of the grooms. And she's like, I cannot let that girl marry this man. He's terrifying and awful. Now, Dad gets out of the room. We don't exactly know how. Someone looked away. I don't know. But he confronts Mila. And this is where we find out that Mila, I'm just going to call her Mila, is playing a long con with Raphael. Her plan is to marry him, and then after he's abused her, she will bring that to light, and then she will get a divorce settlement that is incredible. Maybe she can even get some of the money of the parents and put them in dire straits as well. And now there's no money. You know, like, we're not even married yet. Like, this is a long con. And Dad says, well, I'm going to ruin your wedding if you don't give me money tonight. Well, you know, your mom, she needs it. You know, if we don't get it tonight, we need it tonight. And Mila knows what that means is that her mother has run out of drugs. So she's probably like detoxing. And that isn't really, as far as Mila's concerned, a real need. After Lucy sees Mila's father walk away from her, not having any idea that it's her father, just this man walks away, she introduces herself to Mila and asks if he's marrying Raphael, and then tells her not to. She says something about losing her voice with him, that she got to the point where she had no voice left in the relationship, and the fact that she got herself out was really remarkable. And Mila tells her this incredible thing that I would like to probably teach every young girl on the planet, which is Mila makes Lucy promise that if a man ever makes her feel like she's losing her voice again, that she will scream so loud that she will break his eardrums. I kind of love that. If a man is making you feel like you're losing your voice, scream so loud that you destroy his eardrums. I love it. Henry finds Lucy, because, you know, Lucy is now worried about Mila. He finds Lucy after she's talked to Mila and apologizes that he left her alone with all the issues with his son, that he didn't realize that his son was still so much in mourning. And Henry tells her that when his wife passed, they were actually in the middle of a divorce. And how this makes him feel extra guilty about the fact that she fell down the stairs and died. She tells Henry in this conversation that she was told by someone that it was actually him who killed his wife, and that she shouldn't trust him. It cuts to Claire and Adriana deciding, talking about how they're not going to spend their last night single, not married, together. They're going to sleep in separate rooms. Aid is really, really upset about her father not coming. She also hasn't heard from her mother or sister. Now, remember, there's this terrible storm, so like people getting there is going to be really, really hard. And she says, I'm not sure that I can go through with this wedding. My father's not here. I haven't heard from my mom and my sister. Everything is a mess. You're terrified of a stalker. Like, maybe this isn't the right time. And Claire is completely devastated. She's like, no. We got to get married in the morning. First thing in the morning, Adriana texts her and sends her a message that says, last night was a glitch. All is well. I was just freaking out. It's fine. We're going to be great. I love you. You love me. We're great. And so after getting this text, Claire gets up and sees that there's a white envelope that has been put in under her door. And she opens it, and it's the photo of a small boy that she does not recognize. And scrawled on the back is, you will pay for what you did to him. She's like, well, I thought this stalking was about, you know, the guy that we put in jail. Who is this small child? What is happening? She does not understand, but you will pay for what you did to him. That is a threat. But we cut to Lucy. Lucy's in the bathroom. Her hair, makeup, all done, dresses on. But she's in the bathroom checking the forum for Jacob's plans. And he says it's on Discord. So she, gets an account on Discord, and she figures out how to get on, and she starts to read his plans. And he says, so it's long. He writes a lot of stuff, but at one point he does write, I'm going to kill her just like I did my mom. To Claire, trying to figure out who this small child is, who she could have hurt. She's never hurt anyone in her life. She's always actually been sort of really passive. And until this jury duty, she'd really never had any effect on anyone's life. She didn't understand what this is. This point, a bartender comes over and tells Claire that Adriana wants to see her, that she needs to see her. She's over by the cellar, and that she wants to talk to her before the wedding. Great. So she heads out. She goes to the cellar, and she's trying to find Aid and can't. Now that Lucy has read this line about, I'm going to kill her like I killed my mom, she confronts Henry about Jacob. And Henry admits the truth. He wasn't there when his wife fell down the stairs. Jacob was there. He is certain it was an accident. He looks up at Lucy and he says, "Are we still getting married today?" And she says, "You know what? I need to help find this grandma." So at this point in the story, all of a sudden, it's Claire, Lucy, the bride, and Mila. And then all of a sudden, there's a chapter called Jacob. So from Jacob's point of view, he says he saw Henry and Lucy fighting. Like when they're fighting this very last time where he's like, "Are we even getting married today?" So he watches them fight, and he thinks about how he knew every single time she logged onto his account. I mean, does she think he's an idiot? He knew full well. He got every keystroke, but he decided that he was over it. And then he thinks about how it all started with his mom. He found out his mom was cheating on his father with a woman. How dare she? And he thinks that this means that she's been lying to his mom, to his father, their entire marriage. And when he confronts her, she doesn't cry. She doesn't apologize. She says, "I'm a human being. And I may have made some mistakes, but I have fallen in love with someone. And that person makes me happy. I'm not going to lose that." Then he thinks to himself that he didn't really mean to kill her. The fight started in his bedroom. She keeps saying how much she loves him. He's the most important person in the world to her. He keeps saying, "No, that can't possibly be true. How could that possibly be true? Look at how you're treating my father. Look at how you're treating me." He's the one who heads towards the stairs, and she tries to reach out to stop him. And he shoves her. And she falls. And she breaks her neck. It is clear with the way that she has fallen onto the bottom of the stairs, she is not surviving this situation. Jacob says after this, he felt invincible. But he still didn't understand why girls don't like him. Like, the girls at school, describe him as, we all know those boys. They look at you in a way that you feel really uncomfortable. And these girls have figured that out, and they are not. He even says, there must be something inside them that made them realize that I have killed one of them, and that's why they don't like me. So he really is an incel. He absolutely hates women, but his father completely covered for them. What they did was they left the house. They went, I don't know if they went to his work. They went somewhere where they could be seen. They would definitely be seen. And then when they got home, they called 911 that she was at the bottom of the stairs, that they came home, and this is just admits that when he first met Lucy, she's younger than his mom, he was really attracted to her. He started to have dreams and thoughts and things about her, and it just made him hate her. So he's decided that the only way that he can make any of this stop is to end Lucy. So back to the present time, he follows Lucy outside as she's going to look for the grandmother. Jacob follows her outside. He has a very large bag carrying, which she watches him pull out a large gun, and she hides. Now we get a chapter from Henry's point of view. And he says he's lost whatever fight he ever had. He doesn't know that he really had much fight before, but he definitely, whatever he had, he's lost it. He thinks about his ex, Sue, and how she's probably looking down laughing at him, that he has zero control over his son, and the woman that he loved and was lucky to get to, be with is probably not going to marry him anymore. After sort of sitting there and questioning and realizing that he doesn't do anything, he decides he has to go after Lucy. She's just went off there in the snow on foot. This is not okay. So he jumps into his car, but as he gets into his car, Raphael comes running over and is like, "I need your car, man. Give me your car right now." And he says, "Look, my 80-something grandmother is missing in the storm. My car is blocked in by the caterers, and the caterers now can't move because of the snow. Yours is the only 4-wheel drive that is available to be, can actually go somewhere. I need it. I need to find my grandmother." He says, no, 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 I'm going after my fiance. I have to pick up my fiance. Mila catches up and says, no, 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 we'll get her. Raphael says, please just let me take your car. Mila and I will go. We will pick up Lucy. We will get my grandmother. Please just let us. And, Henry is the biggest pushover ever. Like, he doesn't have a backbone. So, yes, of course, that's what happens. This is the bride and groom in the car that started the entire story. Okay? Only we didn't get to hear the conversation that preceded the accident. So he says, you know why I didn't want that man in here with us? I didn't want him to come with us to go looking. Because I didn't want him to hear this conversation. I saw the pictures. You're a slut. You're a whore. You're awful. What makes you think I would ever marry you? That's when she decides, okay, it's over. The long con isn't going to happen. Let me just tell him what I've been doing. And she reveals that she has known exactly who he was since the moment they met. That, he would talk about how he was in a car accident and he hurt someone very, very badly in that accident, and it was his redemption. It brought him back to a place where he wasn't always drunk and and doing drugs, and that he became a better person, and this was his light bulb moment. Well, his light bulb moment was the exact same moment that he killed her 13-year-old sister. So Christopher and Mila, when they met at the graveside, it was their little sister, who was 13 when she was killed by Raphael, who had just left his drug dealer and was like super high on coke and basically mowed her down. I mean, they couldn't even identify the body. Like, she had been literally destroyed. Mila was like, all I want is revenge. Her parents took a small payout because they just wanted to be able to do more drugs and drink more alcohol. And the amount of money that they were given was so unfair and nowhere near enough to compensate for the death of a child. So she says, originally I really wanted to take your money so that I could maybe even some of your parents' money, maybe even destroy a little bit of your parents. But that's okay. He is so gobsmacked. He cannot think straight. He's driving too fast. And so Mila just grabs the wheel of the car and turns it so that they drive off of the road and into a tree. And at the time, she's thinking, maybe we'll both die. This will be great. As long as he dies, I have revenge. I don't care about my life. We know what happened after that. He got hurt. She covered his mouth and nose until he wasn't breathing anymore. She got her revenge. She leaves. She gets to a farmhouse. Like, someone lives relatively close to this venue. And the woman's name is Denise. And she helps her warm up, and she gets her some better clothes to wear and gives her some food and some tea. She just helps her out. And she's like, thank you so much for all your help. You've no idea how much you kept me alive. What happened? So Lucy is out. She's trying to find the grandmother. She's looking around. She's thinking to herself, what am I doing? I'm in a wedding dress in a snowstorm looking for a grandmother I don't even know. She's grabbed by someone from behind. And at first she thinks it's Jacob, and she's really scared because she knows that Jacob wants to kill her and that he's out there looking for her and that's his goal. And it's actually not Jacob. It's Sunil, who is the coworker that tried to kiss her and seemed a little too interested in her. He takes her to his car and says, we have to wait out the snow. She says, okay, I will warm up in your car for 10 minutes and then we are going back. Because she saw Jacob with the gun, and she wants everyone to know that there is a child on the venue's, property who's not stable and has a gun. And it's around this time that we find out that there is a dead body. Bill, who works at the venue, has been killed outside of it's not really an armory. Hotels don't have armories, but like their security office, which is where Jacob got the shotgun or rifle. I don't know. They just describe it as long. And so Sunil has her in his car. He says that she should call, from the car. And she says, well, all the phone lines are down. Everything is down. Like, everything. The electricity in the hotel room, like, it's very, very bad. And but the car is warm, and she does need to warm up. So she's really weary of him. She's like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? This is so weird, right? Like, and he's saying things like, I want to be with you, and I'm the one who should be with you, and you should be with me, and Henry is terrible, and he killed his ex-wife, and blah, 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 blah. Men are creepy. Sometimes. Some men. Not all men. My dad is the greatest human male ever on the face of the planet. So Claire, who is on her way to try to find Adriana at the cellar, is approached by a woman who has a knife and threatens her. Claire's mind is going, who is this woman? Who is this woman? She realizes, oh my God, I've been so worried about the man we convicted's brother that I completely forgot about his wife. So she pulls Claire down into the cellar and then down into a tunnel that is underneath the cellar. Okay? And she's clearly been staying there for a couple days. There's a sleeping bag and like some food, and there are pictures on the cave walls, all of like covered in pictures. Everything from full family pictures of mother, father, 4 children, to individual pictures of this one boy, to, the mom and all the children, dad and the children. Like, it's just all these pictures of her family. And she starts to tell Claire about how she had 4 children. And now she only has 3 because the prize, her one son, was so devastated by the court proceedings and the information that came out about his dad that he ended up taking his own life. The wife tells Claire that enough people on the jury had been paid off. The evidence was only circumstantial. But then Claire started poking holes in the theories and seeing through the lies and pushing for the guilty verdict, and she got it, which means that this is all her fault. The wife wants Claire to know who it is she hurt and that she is responsible for the death of this woman's child. She demands that Claire put on handcuffs, and as Claire's putting the handcuffs on, she thinks to herself, I'm never going to see Adriana again. And it's heartbreaking. Okay, back to Jacob. Jacob heads off after Lucy, but he sees his father's car. And it's in a heap at the bottom of a tree. So he's like horrified. He goes running over, sees the dead man in the car, and after that first moment of, oh God, is that my dad? He realizes, that's not my dad. And he realizes things are going a little out of control, and he's not sure he's actually going to be able to find Lucy. But it's okay. As long as he's able to unalive himself, all of this won't be for nothing. He sees someone in a wedding dress and goes after her, and it is not Lucy. It is Mila. So now we have Mila, who reached out to her father and is waiting for him to get to her because she told him she needed him. And she's also worrying that this teen boy that she has tied up might get out of his binds. Mila, at this point, finds, when she got out of the car, she had grabbed the cell phone, thinking that it was Raphael's, but it wasn't. It's actually Lucy's, and there's all these threatening messages to Lucy on it, and she's like, oh God, I need to help this girl, right? Remember, she's the one who told Mila not to marry Raphael, so now Mila wants to save Lucy. But her father shows up, so she says, look, I need your help dealing with Raphael's body. She says, how are you going to pay me? And she says, well, the truth of the matter is I have been stealing from him for a while, that every time he sends me to a spa day with $300, every time he sends me to shopping with $1,000, I just put that money in my pocket. Maybe I'll get some new clothes, but then I'll change the tags out so that he thinks that they're high end. But I didn't really spend that money on those things. And I never go to the spa. Please. So she does have something like $5,000 or something saved up. She offers him like 2 or something. I can't remember the exact numbers. But And he says, okay, I will help. I will, you're going to pay me. I can get this for your mother. And here's why you should. He killed your youngest child. He's the reason your youngest child is dead. And he is completely shocked. And he's like, okay, yeah, let's, and we'll take care of this man who killed my youngest. Great. And he starts to head out, and she shoots him. And she shoots him again, and she feels nothing, and he dies. So the abuse that she suffered at the hands of her parents was more than just physical, emotional neglect. Sounds like there was some SA as well. When he died, I was kind of like, good job. You shouldn't have to deal with him anymore. Henry, who has let Raphael and Mila go off in his car, is back in the hotel, just sort of like not knowing what to do with himself, and he decides he has to go after Lucy. And his mom or her mom, someone says, you should take her phone. And they find it under her pillow. She did not take her phone with her. So he takes it with him, and he decides to follow the road. It's about 20 minutes to reach the destroyed car. He sees footprints, probably from Mila and Jacob, and he decides to follow them. He does see that Raphael is dead in driver's seat, and he thinks to himself, oh, good, Lucy's abusive ex is dead. That's great. He begins to call emergency services when he hears a gunshot, and he runs after the Lucy and Sunil get back to the hotel after Henry leaves to go find her, right? Colleen is like, oh, yay, we found a bride. Only it's not Claire, which is the one that she knows is missing. Lucy then says, Jacob has a gun. He's probably the one who killed this Bill guy. And Colleen says, we've gotten hold of the police and they're on their way, but there's a snowstorm. Turns out that when Jacob went to steal the gun, he hit Bill over the head with a hammer. He only wanted to knock him out, but he actually ended up killing him. So at this point, people start to sort of freak out. Like, should we be arming ourselves? Maybe you should get us all the security stuff and arm. And yeah, Colleen's like, no. The last thing that we need is for everyone to be armed. Yana is freaking out. Where's Claire? And no one can find her. And people are crying. And Colleen is trying to keep control of the situation so that this mob mentality doesn't take over. So she stands up on a chair and she says, I need everyone to return to your rooms. Hotel staff is going to knock on your door. They're going to knock 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. That's the only knock that you should let in. We will send staff around with blankets and hot chocolate, and we're going to start with the elderly. The priority will be to the elderly, but we will make our way to every single room. We will take care of you. That is the safest place for you to be. Adriana. She can't breathe. She can't think straight. She doesn't want Claire's parents to see her lose her composure. And she starts to realize how much danger the love of her life is in. The bartender heads over to her and says, do you need a blanket? And she waves him away. And then he turns back and he says, you're looking for Claire. I'm not sure if this matters, but someone named Adriana asked him to give her a message. Do you know her? And Adriana's like, what? Someone named Adriana gave her a message? No, that's me, and I didn't. So what? And he says, well, yeah, to go over to the wine cellar. And she's like, well, wine cellar? Where's the wine cellar? And she she has a mermaid dress. One of those ones that's like, for those who don't know, they're tight through your hips and down your legs until they flare out under your knees. So cannot be run in. So Adriana rips her dress open. It's great. She rips it open and starts running. Where is the wine cellar? She kicks off her shoes. She's just running. The door's locked. She's freaking out. There's precious moments that are missing. She's trying to, she gets to Colleen to say, we need the key to the cellar. So, she's so single-minded in her pursuit. And she finally realizes that there really has been this really big danger and she shouldn't have been blowing it off. And she's freaking out and she needs to get to the cellar and she needs to get to her fiance. These two are the only ones who are actually in love. Colleen has a key to the cellar, but there's also a second key and she goes to get the second key and it's missing. Uh-oh. So Peter, who happens to be Raphael's best man, and Adriana grab flashlights and head towards the cellar. They say they can't wait for the police. The police are coming, but Colleen unlocks the door and tells everyone that the ground isn't trustworthy. Peter says that he will go first. And Colleen says, I really don't think that I can go in there, but know that there is a hole. Like, be careful of falling in the hole because the hole goes to the tunnel under the cellar. The two head in. They look into the tunnel and they see a sleeping bag. Someone has been staying here, at least last night. I mean, maybe more. So Peter goes down into the tunnel. He helps Adriana into the tunnel. Adriana now sees the pictures and she sees that it's Kevin Botham's family. It is the family of the man that her fiance ended up getting put in jail. She says, oh my God, Claire was on the jury that put Kevin in jail. And why didn't we ever worry about the wife? I can't believe we forgot about the wife. Cut back to Lucy. Actually, I liked this part a lot. That she takes off the dress. She hates it now. Her mom cries and says, she's so sorry for not listening to her daughter sooner. They worry about Henry. She says that she doesn't want to marry him anymore, but she also doesn't want him to be hurt. And she starts to think about these three men, Sunil, Henry, and Jacob, and how they each make her so sick. They're all broken, they're damaged beyond repair, and they treat women like things. Now we are inside Millie's head. And she's wondering, her being the bride and all, she's wondering if maybe she reached too hard. She took the missing grandmother as a chance to get revenge on Raphael for her sister. She took Jacob, mistaking her for Lucy, as a chance to kill her father. Something that she thought about for so long that she couldn't remember a time when she didn't want it. And she thinks, is it possible to set it up to make it look like Jacob is the one that killed her father? Maybe he was an angry kid who just wanted to kill everything in his path. All she needs is his fingerprints on the gun. He'll need to be dead, but oh well, he's not. He's a little shit. It's fine. And then she realizes she's got footprints because, snow. She tries to get rid of them on her way out. She does that thing that, Danny Torrance does at the end of The Shining. Get rid of her footprints. And now we're at Henry. Henry, remember, had just heard a gunshot and sees Mila and Jacob's footprints. He rushes to the structure he sees that the footprints go to. And he looks in the window and he thinks, why in the world is my son tied up? And he heads to his son to untie him, but a woman with a knife that he recognizes turns on him and mutters, shit, 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 shit. It's Millie, whatever. She attacks Henry with the knife. He falls out the door. He's got some pain in his spine. He manages to stop the knife from stabbing him in the chest. Jacob gets himself, this whole time he's trying to get himself out of the binds. Remember, she thought, oh God, what if he gets out of the binds? He just gets out. He runs with the shotgun. He aims to shoot, but no bullet comes out. He aims to shoot Mila, but no bullet comes out. And Jacob tries to shoot at his father, but his father stops him. He says, where did you get this? And I need you to stop lying. All you do is lie to me, and I'm done with it. And Jacob begins to blubber. I didn't mean to kill him. He's talking about Bill. I didn't mean to kill Bill. I just wanted to knock him out. Henry sits down with his son because he realizes that this is probably the last time he's going to be able to sit with his son quietly in nature forever. So he slowly starts asking questions. He says, is this why she tied you up? He says, yeah. And then why did you steal the gun? Well, to kill Lucy and then myself. And this is when Henry starts to realize what his son has actually become. All in one moment. Lucy had tried to get him to see, but he wouldn't. He couldn't. And now he can no longer ignore the ugly truth. His son was just like him. Henry tells Jacob he's sorry, but by this time they're telling the police everything. He needs help. Henry cannot provide. And Henry knows that he has lost his son. Back to Claire, who, the wife, whose name, she introduced herself as Natasha. She has her mouth hand over Claire's mouth, and she has the knife at her throat, and she's telling her to be quiet because they hear Adriana, because they heard the people coming in as they start running down the tunnel, which has no light. No light. They don't have a flashlight, and they're moving as quickly as they can, but it's pretty slowly. They hear Adriana yell Claire's name. And Claire decides she needs to yell back. And she does. And Natasha takes a swipe with the knife, but misses. And she gets a hold of her again, and Claire begins to whisper, "You know he did it. He was guilty. I am so sorry that your child is gone, but his father's choices are what led to that. It wasn't Claire's choices that led to the death of her son." Natasha grabs her hair, knocks both of them over, which causes Natasha to lose the knife. And Claire hears it like skitter, and so she gets up and she just starts running through the darkness. She's yelling for Adriana. She's screaming. Claire, lights, arms wrap around her. They find each other. Claire sort of attacks her, and she, runs to her and knocks her over, and she hits her head on the ground, and everything goes black. But when Mila's trying to figure out what in the world she should do now, she goes back to Denise. And Denise is like, "You're back?" And she's like, "I really need your help. My abusive husband is setting me up for killing my father. Please, please help me." So she goes into the bathroom. She cuts her hair. She wipes her makeup away. She applies very different makeup to cover up the graze on her cheek and the bruise and what have you. And she borrows a dress, a belt, reading glasses. She returns to Denise and says, "I'm Katie. I'm your goddaughter. Where are your mugs?" And she familiarizes herself with the kitchen so that when the police arrive, and at first they're like, "Can we check your property?" And they say, "Yes." "Is there anyone else in the house besides you?" "Yes, my goddaughter is visiting me." "Okay, we're going to check your property." And then they come back and they knock on the door and they say, "Can we look inside?" And they look inside. They come in. She says hello. She's reading. She's drinking. She looks... The family dog is like literally on her lap. She's reading. She's drinking tea. Like, she doesn't look like who they're looking for. So when she says it's just me and my goddaughter, they go... it's all good. They totally fool them. Great. We've reached the epilogue, which I love to know what's going to happen to these characters, This one is 6 months later, which is awesome. Like, if it had ended there, I would have been like, but. Okay, so we open with Claire, and she's thinking to herself how in a few hours she's going to be putting on her wedding dress. And she's really excited. And she thinks back to how she woke up in the hospital with Adriana next to her, telling her, "You're going to be okay. Your nose is broken. They're checking for a concussion." But the good news is that both Simon and Natasha Botham, Simon is the brother, were arrested. They had been working in Junction. Turns out that Pauline, the one who she was closest to on the jury, who said, "I was also given strange gifts," never actually called the police to tell them about that strange gift because she had been bought off by the Bothams. They were paying her for information about Claire. While it hurt her to know that that's what was going on, it also made Claire feel better knowing that she wasn't making the stuff up. Like, there's that gaslighting feeling where you're like, is this real? Am I imagining things? She then recounts some basic information. She says 3 lives were lost. Bill was killed by Jacob. Patty Crowley, who was Mila Davidson's father, Millie Crowley, and Raphael was killed in a tragic car accident. Adriana and Claire's wedding is about 3 hours away, and Adriana's father is even in attendance. Her mother and sister, who did make it to the other wedding that they didn't have, but everyone is here this time, and the two of them both think this is right. That other time was not the right time. This is the right time. So we get to have our beautiful, happy, wonderful marriage. One, at least. Wedding. Not marriage, wedding. So we get to find out what's going on with both Lucy and Mila. So, Lucy she spends 3 months in Spain, and she's sporting a tan, and she's sipping at champagne because she's been invited to the wedding of Adriana and Claire. That when they were at the hospital, they met. She went to visit Claire because, all of this had sort of happened both of them at the same time. And, everything that had gone on that night, they really wanted to meet, and they ended up meeting, and they got very close. So she ends up getting invited, and she is so happy to be on her own. She is so happy to just find her happiness by herself and to have these beautiful, wonderful female friends. It's awesome. Okay. Finally, Millie. Yeah, okay. Beatrice Gray is her name now. Is what she's going by. So she had gone missing after killing her abusive father. Lucy hopes that wherever she is, she's thriving. Beatrice Gray. She's on a luxury yacht. And Nico says to her, "Oh, it looks so good on you," about the amazingly wonderful diamond ring on her hand. She went to Europe. She hung around 5-star hotels and expensive dresses in Greece until she met this millionaire Italian on a business trip. And she wonders, as she sips her champagne in the middle of the ocean next to this man who makes her happy, I wonder when he'll figure out my lies. And that's how it ends. It was a really neat story that kept me on my toes the whole time. Like, I really didn't know what was going to happen, and I kept being like, who is this and who is that? And it was a really neat page turner. I really, really enjoyed it. So I hope you enjoyed, and if you're still here, I really, really appreciate it. Do me a favor, be nice to each other out there. Be nice to yourself. It's important, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.